Where were the systems? Where were the corporate governance systems? Did you know that it's possible to have a great business idea, a great business model, and still lack a good corporate governance system to ensure that your business or organization prospers for the long term? According to the former board chair of Uganda Airlines, Honorable Perez Ahabwe, the airline did not have a good corporate governance system in place.
We did not find any functional system in place. There was no recruitment policy. There was no financial management policy. There was no procurement policy. There was nothing.
My name is Jimmy Walabichi, and you're welcome to Corporate Governance Africa, where we seek to promote good corporate governance through film. Corporate governance is the system by which companies are directed and controlled. A company's corporate governance system includes the processes, the roles of the different important internal stakeholders, and the company's ethical values. In this video, we show 3 ways in which a good corporate governance system helps a business to succeed. And secondly, we shall show how to establish a good corporate governance system. In doing this, we shall give the example of Uganda Airlines, Uganda's national carrier, to show the challenges that they faced and how they would apply to any business or organization. The airline was incorporated as a limited liability company under the Companies Act of 2012 of Uganda on the 30th of January 2018. The airline is jointly owned by the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and the Ministry of Works and Transport. On incorporation in 2018, the airline was governed by a 3-member caretaker board, but then on the 7th of June 2019, the first substantive board of Uganda Airlines was inaugurated. It consisted of 7 board members, including the chairperson, Mr. Perez Ahabwe, whom we've heard from already, and the airline started commercial operations on the 27th of August 2019, providing scheduled and unscheduled passenger and freight services. According to a feasibility study carried out by the National Planning Authority of Uganda before the airline commenced operations, it was projected that the airline would break even in its 5th year of the start of operations. However, the airline quickly fell behind schedule. Subsequently, on the 30th of April 2021, the entire board of directors was suspended by the Minister of Works and Transport due to allegations of corruption, mismanagement and poor performance. Partly because of these allegations and the Auditor General's findings for the year 2020-2021, the Parliamentary Committee on State-Owned Enterprises, COSASE, held a month-long probe in August 2022, during which the lack of good corporate governance systems in the airline came to light. It is in this context that the former board chair made important remarks concerning the airline's corporate governance system before the Parliamentary Committee. A good corporate governance system is a combination of the processes, the roles, and the values of the organization. We now look at 3 ways in which a good corporate governance helps a business to succeed. First is that a good system outlines the processes that support the business model. These include processes concerning how to engage with employees, how to hire them, how to fire them, how to engage with other stakeholders like a company's suppliers and different people related to the organization, the customers, and even other internal controls that would protect the business. And when the processes are explained, there is clarity of how particular goals within the organization are achieved, so the company's operations are carried out very efficiently. Also, you find that where there is good employee management, the company will excel because the employees are well catered for and they are well motivated and they can execute their duties for the furtherance of the business of the organization. Clarity of processes also reduces the opportunity for fraud, which could drain the company's resources, because things like procurement processes are clearly defined and internal controls are put in place. When Mr. Ahabwe was appointed as the chair of the board of Uganda Airlines, he found that there was a lack of these processes in the organization.
We did not find any functional system in place. There was no recruitment policy. There was no financial management policy. There was no procurement policy. There was nothing. It's like running your own home. You feel like you want to get a piece of roasted maize. You call someone, go and buy. And there you are eating your piece of maize. I said, no, this cannot continue.
Indeed, without well-outlined processes, there is a great deal of informality in running the business, which could open the company to unethical practices and losses as a result. Second is that a good corporate governance system describes the different roles of the key stakeholders in the business. In this regard, the roles of the employees, the management of the company, the board of directors, and even the shareholders are specified. Typically, where there are no systems to be adhered to, there will be interference of the roles. There will be a great deal of blurring of the lines. In this respect, the chair of the board noted that there was a great deal of interference from the shareholders of Uganda Airlines into management affairs when he joined the organization as a board chair.
Now we had the Ministry of Works and Transport having a very, very strong hand in managing the airline. When I reached, I said, no, I think you people, you are our supervisors. You supervise. Let's do our work now that we are here. So I tried as much as possible to detach the ministry and its influence.
There was also interference from the board in the role of the management of the company.
Honorable Chair, I think yes, I agree. There should be very clear separation of roles of the ministry, with shareholders. I think one of the problems which I can share with you came into being because of this is a young entity. And actually what the Honorable Islam is talking about is part of what was part of the problem to the other board, the first board, that they had left board level and they were going into management roles. And so there was conflict between the board and management.
For government-owned businesses, interference will normally manifest as political interference. Indeed, there was political interference in Uganda Airlines. For example, in 2021, the board hired PricewaterhouseCoopers and paid them 98 million Uganda shillings to recruit a chief executive officer. PricewaterhouseCoopers published an advert inviting different people to apply for the position. 40 people applied, but 2 days to the deadline, the board received a letter from the Minister of Works and Transport, General Katumba Wamala, instructing them to appoint a particular individual pursuant to a presidential directive. The board immediately stopped the process and appointed that individual without due regard to the laid-down procedure. Third is that a good corporate governance system articulates or spells out the values of the business. And this is extremely important because corporate governance is about a good corporate culture. The values should emphasize good stakeholder relations and good ethical principles, and in this regard they should include things like accountability and transparency. They should include integrity, responsibility and excellence, and these values provide the background upon which to build that good ethical corporate culture. But how do we establish a good corporate governance system if it's so important for an organization? First is that the proposed values, roles and processes should be reduced into writing. And typically this is through policies and regulations of the organization for the day-to-day operations of the company, and they ensure that there is good compliance with laws and regulations. They should reflect the culture of the organization, and they should give guidance for decision making, risk appetite, and even streamlining the processes of the organization. The chairman of the board indeed testified that the remedy for the lack of system in the organization was to put in place certain documents that set out these roles, values and processes. These were through policies. He even spoke about setting up a board charter or establishing a board charter, drafting a board charter which would be of benefit even at the board level.
And by the time I left, we had a finance manual, a finance management manual, we had a procurement manual. We had a human resource manual. We developed a charter. Airlines operate on charters. Not chartering a plane, but there is a charter, some kind of constitution that defines roles. Yes, please. That defines roles of the board, roles of management, and role of the CEO, role of the chairman, and how they must meet. And
it's also important to note that when drafting policies, one ought to consider the size of the business. For example, the King Code 4, with respect to small businesses, acknowledges that these businesses typically run in an informal manner and that the shareholders of small companies are more involved in their companies. The code also notes that in family businesses, shareholders have personal ties with managers. However, some form of written document should be adopted in order to be clear about the company's ownership and shareholding amongst others. The reason is that good policies provide the right framework which is tailor-made for a particular organization, so that the smaller or the simpler an organization is, the less detailed would the policies be, and the more complex, the bigger the organizations are, maybe the more policies that would be required and the more complex would the policies be for that particular organization. Second, it's important to periodically review the policies to consider whether they are adequate for the stage of the business or whether there is adequate compliance of the policies as they stand. Policies keep changing as the business grows, as we've mentioned already, because there may be more complex processes and more complex roles and tasks in the business. But without updating the processes, there is a lack of clarity in the company's business processes, and there may be a hindrance to the business to being really organized. This can only be realized when there are periodic reviews of the policies. And some organizations give review periods of 3 years or maybe 4 years, but the review process is extremely important. And third, one may need external eyes to audit whether or not the corporate governance system is actually working. This may be through an internal audit, through an external audit, through a corporate governance audit, or even through a board evaluation. It's always important to have a bird's eye view so that one's blind spots can be identified. Indeed, the external audit conducted by the Auditor General of Uganda for the year 2020-2021 revealed some weaknesses in the corporate governance systems of Uganda Airlines at that time. In conclusion, it's possible to have a great business idea, to have a great business model, and not have a good corporate governance system. Uganda Airlines had that problem. Some interventions were made in order to fill that gap that was found by the board chair of Uganda Airlines. Indeed, the airline has a great opportunity and great potential to succeed in the airline market. However, in the absence of good corporate governance systems, the airline will not succeed, at least not in the long term. But with good corporate governance systems, as discussed, the airline is bound to succeed.